Good evening, everyone. Can you guess who I am? Well, I am Charles Robert Darwin. You have probably heard of me in your science books, but have you heard of my contributions to psychology? Well, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in 1809, Shrewsbury, Shropshire, aka United Kingdom. I was always fascinated by the natural world. I was an avid reader of nature books, and I devoted my spare time to exploring the fields of woodlands around my home. My father was a doctor, in which he had high hopes I would soon become one. But guess what? I had no interest at all in medicine. The sight of blood made me sick to my... So around the age of 27, I decided to embark on a voyage aboard a ship of the British Royal Navy. The main purpose of the trip was to survey the coastline of South America and chart its harbors to make better maps of the region. On this trip, I explored regions in Brazil, Argentina, Chile, and most importantly, remote islands such as the Galapagos. Does this sound familiar? Well, during this voyage, I collected specimens like fossils, in which my analysis of the plants and animals led me to question how species work, form, and change over time. This work convinced me of the insight of my most famous work, natural selection. My theory argues that all living species, including humans, arrived at their current biological form through a historical process involving random inheritable changes. Some changes are adaptive, that is, they increase an individual's chances of surviving and reproducing. Changes of this kind are more likely to be passed on to the next generation, natural selection, while changes that hinder survival are lost. My work was very controversial actually, because my ideas are centered on the idea that humans and animals share a common evolution and ancestry. My work influenced much on comparative and evolutionary psychology. Do you know what comparative psychology is? Well, it was actually created by one of my dear students, Pierre Florence, in which is the study of animal behavior in order to draw conclusions on human behavior. My student was influenced by me because I revolutionized the way we think about animals. I claim that we can learn more about human memory, behavior, instincts, and even emotion if we only studied animals. If it wasn't for my conclusions that animals and humans share a lot biologically, most likely comparative psychology may not exist today. Without comparative psychology, humans may not have gained the knowledge and information about human behavior that we have been able to gather by doing animal studies. Another branch of psychology which was also inspired by my work was evolutionary psychology. Many psychologists have recently applied my theory in explaining how the human mind evolved to benefit the individual. From this point of view, complex aspects of human behavior and experience, including language, memory, and consciousness, all evolved because of their adaptive fitness. In one way or another, these features promoted survival and propagation of the human species. At one point, I was considered an early experimental psychologist. I conducted one of the first studies on how people recognize emotion in faces. In 1872, I published The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals, in which I argued that all humans and even other animals show emotion through remarkably similar behavior. I concluded that emotion had an evolutionary history that could be traced across cultures and species. Today, many psychologists agree that certain emotions are universal to all humans regardless of culture, like anger, fear, surprise, disgust, happiness, and sadness. To conclude this chat with you all, I can go on and on about all the amazing experiments and research I did throughout my 73 years of life. But I believe I covered most of the important, which was my contribution to psychology. Thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, please comment below. Thank you.